What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. It's episode 791 of The O Show. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe on our YouTube channel at Jack O'Hara TV. We have my former MMA broadcast colleague on the show today. He's got a big fight coming up in the Misfits, right?
Yep.
It's Ben the Bane Davis.
Thank you so much for having me, Jack. I'm very pleased to be here.
We came from humble beginnings.
We did. I think
we are here.
Some would say the humblest. Ground zero of mixed martial arts here in Arizona is where we first met.
Part of me feels like it would be disrespectful to talk about it, but I don't feel like they would ever see this. So
No, I don't know if Todd. And again, you know, we're so grateful for that opportunity.
It was awesome.
It is a starting point.
This
and it
was
was
a year
great.
ago, by the way.
This was October 14th of last year.
Yeah.
And it was the first in-person play-by-play job that I'd had because I've been doing esports for a number of years and was able to parlay it. And thankfully, you were my color commentator that night. And Todd, appreciate the opportunity. However, bad.
All right, let's start from the beginning on this.
Sure.
So, I don't know what your interview process was like. I'm like, oh, I get to call an MMA fight. I know they're in the area. I had a few connections that knew a few of the guys, the owner. And I get on the phone with this guy, Todd, who's just like, so I've heard you've done work with ESPN a little bit. I'm like, yeah, you sound like you're our guy. It's like, we've had guys in the past that didn't work out. We have another guy, his name's Ben Davis, graduated from ASU. I'm just like, I think I follow him on Instagram. Like, oh, this might be a very good, like a good group of guys that it'll be easy. It'll be easy for me as like a fight enthusiast. Like you ran the ship as the play-by-play guy. I was like the Joe Rogan where I'm just like screaming at all the knockouts.
Yeah.
And then who else did we have?
I can't remember on the 14th, but I did.
Former fighter.
We had, I think his name was Sean Crosby or something. He was a Muay Thai guy.
Right.
And I recall he mentioned a lot about his experience.
Analytically, he knew what he was talking about. Right?
But I mean, after that, I think I probably did another 7 or 8 Rage in the Cage shows. And had guys, Jacob Guerrero, who's a good buddy of mine, a Panamanian fighter.
That's right.
We've had, I think it was just me and Jake. We had this pro wrestling guy named Jacob Gerhardt as well.
But it's so easy to do it with people who actually know the sport.
Yeah, as
opposed to people who are like, I kind of watch it on TV, or like I did Muay Thai, I didn't do that, but it's like it's the same thing, right?
Well, I think color commentating is such a unique skill, and like as a play-by-play, it's not really my lane. But as a former active fighter, those are the types of positions that they should be in. You, as much a fight enthusiast as a fight fan, like it's always good to have that voice in the booth, because the way that I've always looked at it is the viewer will connect to you way more than they connect to me or the color commentator that is a fighter, because you are basically them. You're the funnel, you know what I mean? But it's not conducive, I think, the higher levels to have just a non-trained eye in the booth, you know what I mean? I think the ROI on that isn't as high as packing it with fighters, you know what I mean?
Dude, I have pictures, like they did a really good job with the setup. I'll say, if anything else, maybe our location of where our broadcast booth was, like literally 20 yards from the cage itself, was kind of rough.
Yeah.
But like the seats, it was like a padded mat, which was something I wasn't really expecting. But then they had obviously the 2 main monitors that everybody could see us as we're talking, and I thought that was really it was really cool. It was my first ever MMA broadcast, so it was really cool to see how that all worked. But I remember showing up to the arena that day, and you're texting me, you're like, are you here yet? Please tell me you're coming soon. Because you had shown up probably 4 hours before. They told us to get there 4 hours before the event if we could.
Yeah.
And I had work or something. I'm like, I'll get there a couple hours before.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, you got to show up. I'm in the back of someone's car right now. We're just chugging beers. They're all getting drunk before the event.
It was a really dumb pre-show prep. We're all just having blue moons in the back of the promoter's car, and he's telling stories of ridiculous, encounters and experiences he's had. And I'm just sitting there again in, the turtleneck and everything, just like, what the fuck am I getting myself into, dude? It was weird, but hey, those were fun days to look back on. But
dude, I texted you in the moment. I'm like, these are the stories you're gonna be able to tell when you make it. Because I remember the second we went live on pay-per-view, I'm like, oh, this guy's got the voice, he's got the knowledge.
I appreciate
interviewing
that,
skills whenever we had fighters on when we were stalling, because the first fight, the 18-year-old kid gets knocked out, and there was only one doctor at the event, and they had to rush him to the hospital. So the entire pay-per-view, we had to stall.
Well, because legally,
2 hours.
Legally, you can't continue an event if there's not an EMT or a doctor on site. So I've had that happen a number of times with shows where A fighter will have like a broken limb or something, and they'll have to transport it, and then again, you get like a 90-minute period where you got to burn time.
Have multiple doctors.
But it's expensive. It's way too expensive to have multiple doctors and ambulances on hand. So for regional shows that are already cost-cutting and smaller budgets, it's just kind of a bitch of the industry. You know what I mean?
It really was, dude. That was one of the hardest broadcasts. Probably, and again, you were the one manning the ship, so I don't want to make it seem like it was that difficult. But to have no commercial break or any break whatsoever,
Yeah.
I think they brought on a different team and we were able to take like a 5-minute break or something.
Maybe or like an intermission screen. Yeah, I
but
think
to be able to just stall and just talk about the fights and bring on the fighters to interview and just keep going and rambling about stuff.
Well, the irony of it is, because it's such low-level amateur MMA, that when we're burning time and talking about the card, it's like we could talk about these matchups all day long, but the reality is it's kids that have been training for maybe less than a year.
Yeah.
It's not a UFC, we can talk about their past fights and they've had this title shot or they had, these finishes. Like, these kids have nothing. They're training in their backyard.
That 18-year-old that got knocked out, I'm like, is he crying? I'm like, there's fluid coming from his eyeball, Bane. I don't know what to...
It's either blood or
I don't know how to analyze
tears,
this.
Man. Yeah, blood or tears. Mm-hmm. No, it's I don't know. For me, it's weird going from that in October of last year to where everything is now. I mean,
Were you in Boston Anik are hanging out? I'm like, wait a minute, is that a UFC fighter he's with? Is that John Anik's brother he's calling a match with? I'm like, holy crap! Like,
I know.
He's doing it. He's traveling all over the place. He's living the dream.
Things have changed.
You're doing what
man.
you've set out. You've gotten the opportunity. People have said amazing things about you as a commentator.
Well, I take it seriously. I think that is the difference maker on the regional scene with play-by-plays. It's like it's typically a local guy from a radio station or a sports broadcasting job that comes in, doesn't really give a fuck about it. It's not what they want to do. It's a hobby side gig, and ultimately they just don't bring that X factor. And I think I've been telling people for a while, I'm going to do this and I'm going to achieve that. And you can doubt me all you want, but I know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be calling fights at the UFC one day.
Who's doubting you? I want to know who's doubting.
A lot of people, man. I got a lot of voices. I got a lot of people online that'll talk shit and, say, oh, you're awful at this, or your career's gonna stop here, and, it's noise. It's all noise. But I think there's also self-doubt. I'm kind of my own biggest enemy at some points, and with anxiety, that definitely is not a conducive factor for success sometimes.
Oh yeah. Dude. How are you able to channel out? Because in my life. Right now, like I said, it's been crazy, right? There's professional success happening. There's also personal stuff I'm trying to navigate right now. It's like a giant just cesspool of like toxic things, but at the same time healthy things. How are you able to like navigate all that, especially when you're traveling so much? Yeah,
well, I think I agree with you, man, in the sense where professionally things are pretty good, and again, you're crushing it, dude, and I can totally relate to that. Okay, the job is good, but man, the personal life is almost suffering because of it. And to your point, I've been on the road about 3 weeks a month, every month, sometimes even more. I was on the road like 6-7 weeks in a row at one point. And there's a lot of things this year that personally have just either fallen apart or couldn't continue or were changed because of my job, which sucks. And it wasn't really something that I thought would happen, because I don't think that's something you think of. You're thinking, oh, I set out to do this, and I've got these goals of broadcasting, and now I'm doing it. But I don't think you ever think about that double-sided sword and the other side of it. But I don't know. I mean, pain now, pleasure later. We're young guys. Like I'll sacrifice what I need to. I've already sacrificed so much, man. Birthdays, every kind of holiday you can imagine.
Do you look at those as sacrifices, though? I've never looked at certain things that like, okay, I didn't come home for Christmas one year. It's like, is that too big of a deal? Like, I'm like, I don't know if I could necessarily say it's like, oh, if I sacrificed friendships, none that were worth sticking around with. It's like I went after my career, and it's like
I think that's valid.
I love it.
I think that there's some, especially like with friends and certain people, like you said, toxicity. Man, you got to clean house sometimes. And I've been in that same boat where I look around and I'm like, these are not individuals that are advancing me personally and making me more ambitious, or they're not succeeding, they're not trying to go crush it, so I should probably find a different environment to be around. So I get that, but when it comes to like, family time and holidays and shit, I do view it as a sacrifice, because I am certainly choosing something over that. And I'm going, this is not the most valuable thing right now. Yeah. This is, and it's at the expense of insert whatever. So I do look at it as a sacrifice, but I think it's a justifiable one. And thankfully I've been right up until this point. Every sacrifice I've made, I look back and go, yeah, that was worth it.
It's like you're sacrificing a relationship here, but you're building a relationship with like an Ariel Helwani or a John Anik or anybody really, It's like, I think that's worth it for what you're going after. Like that's a big step to make in your 20s, dude.
100%. And
I think early 20s.
Young guy. I mean, I'm probably gonna die like early, younger dude. So this might be like a midlife situation for me. I could be on the later years right now.
Dude, can you imagine? Like that's gonna be something that we'll probably look back when we're 50. Like all those guys, unfortunately, they're like, I remember he was the best. And he was
gone too soon.
Gone
yeah,
30.
dude.
That's my biggest fear. It's like, oh man, like who's gonna die out of all of us early?
I know. You know what's crazy for me right now is seeing people that I went to high school with or college, like getting married and having children.
Does it make you nervous?
I don't know if it makes me nervous. I think it more so confuses me. It confuses me a lot because I don't have that same perspective. For me, I go, man, all of those responsibilities and anchors and tying yourself down, that should be done in a while. We're young dudes. 20s, I mean, that's the time to just kind of live life. And I'm not saying having families and all that isn't living. That's certainly a part of it. But we got time for that. And again, for us, I'm like, I don't know, I got to meet the right person before those things happen. So when I look at my high school friends that are doing it, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, pregnant at 22? God.
At least you have that perspective of like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Some people will be like, oh man, they have that. Why don't I have that yet? And then you literally go into that spiral of like, what's wrong with me?
Comparison, dude. Yeah.
That's why you need to have a dream, like being a UFC broadcaster or getting into.
Or I don't even. It might be a dream thing. It also might just be like you gotta have security within yourself.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like if you're comparing your worth to everybody and what you're up to versus what they're up to, you're never going to be happy. You're always going to be robbing your own positivity because, like, just appreciate what you have and focus on what you have. And like you said, go after what you want. Who gives a fuck what they're doing? Mm-hmm. That's their journey. That's their road. You're not them. So why compare? And I did that for many years. I mean, I was an actor for a while, and I would be like, why did they get that role versus me? Or why am I not as good as this person at acting? But ultimately, you just got to sit there and go, I have what I have, they have what they have, and that's all right. Mm-hmm. And be happy. And honestly, being happy for other people, I think, is a big key as well. Because, it's easy to go, oh, fuck them, I wish that they didn't get that, but or I should have gotten that. Like, no, glad you got it, crush it.
I'm over here and you're over here, all for a reason.
Exactly.
We have not found out. Why
it'll be revealed. Not to be too evangelical.
Eventually I'll figure it out. But like that's all it is. Like you can't get swept up in all of that.
No, because that's and that is the thing. Is it's easy to do that. It's easy to compare. It's easy to become unhappy and just wrap yourself up with insecurities. The harder thing is staying grounded and staying focused and making those tough choices. Oh, I got to eliminate this and I got to cut that person out. Like they're not easy decisions. And they're painful. Change is painful, but it's also necessary,
What was the worst acting role you've ever had?
Oh, man.
Especially as a young kid. I've had bad acting roles before.
I played a sex trafficker.
Okay.
It was in this movie. Gosh, I wish I could remember the name right now. It was a local production, and I played this sex trafficker, and originally I didn't audition for it. I wasn't slated. The guy that they had booked for the role, he fell out, and so I knew one of the casting directors, and he was like, "Hey man, could you come in and we need." They didn't tell me the role, man. They were like, "We need a young, attractive, charming guy," and I was like, "Oh, dude, for what? Like the main love interest?" And they're like, "No, you're gonna sex traffic women," and I was like, "That's cool." So I played this, and I had long hair at the time, and I wore a jean jacket, and yeah, it's so cringy because I remember a lot of it was improv, and thankfully I did a lot of improv, but
improv probably not insanely well produced.
No, it was dude. We're driving around in the director's truck, and I've never driven a truck before. And so I was really scared. And I'm just driving up and down, the freeway, and we're going in and out, and I'm just like, oh my God. And I'm supposed to be trying to hit on this girl and make her fall in love. And then, I think ultimately, there's a scene where I'm shirtless and she's on a bed, and it's a poorly lit, weird just weird set, and I'm like shirtless, just like looking at her, like, dude, it was. And what's funny about it is the whole plot is she gets sex trafficked, escapes, and then recovers at like a horse therapy ranch or something. Like it's a crazy fucking movie. But yeah, that was the worst one, I think.
Not great. Channeling your inner Kevin Spacey.
I know, dude. Yeah, I was like, it's my inspiration is Harvey Weinstein for this one. No, I think that was also the only movie that I did, because I was more of a musical and like theater guy. So the first one and done in like actual on-screen acting, and it was Sex Trafficker, which is cool.
Dude, that's tough.
I know.
I did one where the plot of the movie was that the main character was in love with a wooden chair. And there was like multiple makeout scenes with this wooden chair. And I was supposed to play the guy that made fun of, I was supposed to be the best friend of the guy that fell in love with the wooden chair. And I was just supposed to make fun of the guy. I'm like, I can be a jerk on camera.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Easy.
Like the morning of we're supposed to show up on the set, they're like, yeah, so Jack, the main guy pulled out. And I'm just like, they're like, can you play the main character?
You're like,
and I'm just like, well, I guess I'm committed. Like, I couldn't pull out.
Yeah.
It's like if I pull out, then the whole movie.
Exactly.
What's
funny is the switcheroo is they probably never had a main guy booked.
That's what I'm thinking.
You were always going to be the chair, dude.
All right, are you ready to call him, Dave? Okay, let's make the phone call.
How is that?
You can't back out the day of.
So how long, because I know that sometimes those shoots go like 10 hours, 12 hours.
It was all day.
Making out with a chair all day.
All day long.
Dude, that is so funny.
And I remember them pumping me up, being like, it's only going to be 14 seconds, just count in your head.
Yeah.
None of us are going to make fun of you afterwards.
Yeah, we're not going to dude. I would be behind the camera like, this fucking guy.
I'm still friends with one of the guys that was on set as a camera operator for that movie.
Yeah.
And he's worked on podcasts before, and we've worked in studios where they have monitors, and they're in the back with like all the equipment to like pull up videos and stuff. And sometimes I'll be talking to a guest and I'll look up at the monitor
and
in
it's
the back,
you making
and
out
it's me making out with a chair. I'm just like, pull that down before anybody sees it. He's just messing with me on camera.
It's fucking incredible. Whoever wrote that film needs like a psych evaluation.
It got an award. So it got an award in the Miami Underground Film Festival for like strangest movie of the year in 2020.
Yeah. That's like like a Razzie or whatever?
It's the equivalent of a Razzie,
yeah.
But I wear it as a badge of honor.
You should.
I am an award-winning actor.
What a feather in the cap, man. All for making out with a chair.
Right? I mean, it's great, and it's funny because you come from that world of like acting, whether it's like legit acting or musicals, coming over into broadcasting, where like you have like the thick broadcast voice. Like, you have it, dude. And a lot of us, I guess, turn it on when we're on camera, and it's different. It only comes on when we're on camera. Mm-hmm. But can you give our audience a glimpse of what the Bane is truly like?
Jack O'Hara coming into this one. A lot of steam behind this prospect. He's got a piston of a left hand. We'll see if that high fight IQ presents itself here in the Hammond Civic Center.
See how damn good that is?
That's why
you can't tell I'm wearing a jacket, but goosebumps.
Nah. It would be, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think that, like you were saying, the skills translate so beautifully to broadcasting or podcasting or anything that's like really on camera. If you have a background in performance and creative arts, like you're so set up. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand, because people will DM me and message about like, hey, I'm studying, broadcast journalism or sports broadcasting, and can you give me this tip or that tip? And I'm like, yeah, I didn't do any of that. I majored in fucking finance, guy. I think that if you're studying this and you're falling into this mold, I don't know if you're going to be as successful. Because think about it this way. So many people go and get these broadcasting degrees, and so many people just filter through the machine of an ESPN or something like that, and you become a number. And then you become lost. And then you go, well, was I ever talented? Maybe, but you just used your tools the wrong way. You should have been doing it. You should have been going to Rage in the Cage in Mesa with Todd.
You wanted to get the reps in, man. Dude, what a story that was. I look back, I've had great broadcast experiences. I've had mediocre broadcast experiences where I'm setting up all the equipment, things don't go right. I have like a loose wire and the broadcast goes bad. That was by far and away the most interesting and just bad
horrible and like
experience that we've ever had.
Dude, we had one Rage in the Cage show, I think a few months after. I don't know if I talked to you about this one, but the director, Mel, who is a great guy, was just not
Intense.
there.
Do you remember? Okay.
The first conversation. Oh, he hated you. Yeah, he fucking hated you.
Before you get into that, Yeah, it was like our first meetup at a pizza parlor, by the way. We had a weigh-in at a pizza parlor because I couldn't book anything else.
Oh, man.
And you were sitting down doing interviews with all the fighters, and I kind of like came in late and joined you. And for whatever reason, we both went up and talked to Mel. And Mel, for whatever reason, straight off the bat was just like, dude, just like there's a certain vibe about you. I already don't like you. You already have 2 strikes as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's what he said.
I don't even know you.
Yeah, you said maybe 8 words to him, and he was like, you got 2 strikes, buddy. I'm like, for what? And I remember after you went and talked to him, he came over and bitched to me, and he was like, yes, Jack, I just don't think it's going to work out. And I'm like, he just got here. Like, you just met him,
15 minutes in.
Literally.
What did I do?
And again, we're at weigh-ins at a pizza parlor for like the lowest level MMA possible, and Mel's going, yeah, this guy's just not working out. Like, dude, look around. Look around, bro. What are you expecting?
He's like, none of this is going to be around in the next few months.
No, yeah. They folded. They're gone. Like, who gives a fuck, man? Oh, it is really funny to look back on some of those shows, man. Because like the problems and the experiences that I have doing those shows are things that I would just never run into with like a UFC Fight Pass broadcast or Karate Combat or PFL. Like those are such well-oiled machines that, man, Raising the Cage, what a funny little duckling, that promotion was.
We'll always remember that.
Absolutely.
Hopefully 25 years from now, we're calling a fight. It's like, it's been a long, since Roland Seria's promotion. It's been a long time.
But, no, it's cool. I think that life's crazy, and who knows what's going to happen in the next year, right? I think 2024, there's a lot, especially with this fight, and some more pro grappling. I've got another pro grappling match in December with Fury, which was great exposure-wise. And I think, it's just life, man. It's just, I just want to leave like a fun story.
So is leaving or like living, a fun story through and throughout the biggest thing for you when getting into it? Because obviously commentating, the sport, you love it, it shows on camera, but like actually getting into that cage and fighting, completely different animal.
100%.
Not a lot of people would do it.
No, few people do, and even less play-by-plays get in there, and I think that's one of the big motivating factors that I have for it is because, like, I try and not be an example necessarily because I don't want to overextend the impact that I have or anything, but if people see me, a guy who is just kind of backdooring his way into this industry and just trying to pull it up by the bootstraps, going and doing this and fighting and grappling and commentating, if they see that and go, man, I can do something crazy too. I can start from nothing and build up. That's what I think it really boils down to. And I've got a number of messages and supporting people have been like, man, you've inspired me to do this. And that shit just is, I can't really put words on that. Because again, it was never something I anticipated. Messages like that, I never thought I'd hear that. But now that I have it, it is like a back of my mind when I do shit. I'm like, well, maybe this will help somebody. If I get knocked out by Gabe Silva, maybe this will help somebody.
It's just like, as a fight fan, first and foremost, as an enthusiast growing up probably, and actually watching these fights, getting into it, seeing how much UFC, let alone any of the others, the Bellators of the world, the PFLs of the world, making it, like, you're growing up watching all of these fights, then you get into it yourself, you get into commentating, you're getting all these gigs, you're traveling around the world, then you get a fight with Anderson Silva's, who's one of the greatest fighters of all time. You get a fight with his younger brother. That's got to be a really cool thing.
It is.
Like, you actually take a step back and actually really think all of it through, or are you just in it right now?
I'm just in it. Because I know if I step back and try and process and really, understand the moment of it, it might get to me a little. You know what I mean? Might get to me a little bit. So right now I'm just in it. I'm focusing one day at a time. Like my coach, Seth Wheeler down at AZ Combat, he's been my main striking guy for this camp. And one of the biggest things he told me is he's like, listen, we're gonna do it just one day at a time. And then when we get to fight day, it'll be fight day. And then the day after will be the day after. Because I think in a year, maybe 2, or again, way down the line when I lay it up, I'll look back and go, oh, these were just some insane chapters that nobody else got to do, and just things I got to check off that was really unique. But for right now, I'm, just living.
Mm-hmm. Just living, dude.
Just living, baby.
Living a really cool story, though.
Yeah.
We were talking about right before we came on, like actually being able to tell a story and have life experience over having a desk job and doing the same thing routinely Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
Which some people love, and it's like that's what they do.
If they're fine, like I think that is the thing, for some people, that works, and more power to you. But I feel like if you have a dream or you have a passion or you think that you're meant for something bigger and you're working in jobs like that, you're just giving up. Try. What's the worst that happens? You fail, and then you can always go back to your desk job, likely. You know what I mean? But that's why I'm doing this, because I studied finance, and 3 years into my degree, I was like, I cannot do this. I can't. I tried. I did the internships. None of the classes connected with me. I was so involved at WP Carey. You know, every club. I was teaching at ASU for 3 years, running camps, ran the USG elections. Like, I did everything I could to try and convince myself that this fit. But ultimately, sometimes, if a shoe's a different size, it's never gonna fucking fit, no matter how much you wiggle around or, you know, stomp your feet. So
I couldn't imagine you in a finance office.
Oh, dude, it was not good. Year and a half of
you
commercial
dress
real
like
estate.
it, but
That's true. Like, I think I have the look almost, but I am so ineffective when it comes to business. It's just not my wheelhouse, man.
yeah, I don't know. It could have been. I don't know.
Maybe in a different life.
You would have been great on phone calls and conference rooms, I guess.
Me on like a cold call trying to get someone's assets to fucking be their analyst or whatever. No. That is the other thing, is like the people. And not to generalize, but like finance and business individuals, just from my experience, fucking suck. I don't like talking to them. All they want to talk about is golf. I'm like, shut up, dude. I'm a lefty, so I can't golf.
I don't know if that's a proper excuse. Golfing's hard. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I just think it's way better. Starting your own stuff, taking that chance, taking a risk.
Yeah.
Having all your chips in one basket almost. All your eggs in one basket, I should say.
Failing and figuring it out. Like, that's the thing is, and I'm sure you said this is episode
791.
That is fucking bananas. So there has been some episodes, some days in there where there's setbacks, man. There's failures. There's pods that don't go well. But you just reevaluate and on to the next one. And don't stop. Don't give up. 791 episodes. That's fucking bananas, dude. Congrats on that.
You just don't give up, man.
Yeah.
I remember starting this and being like, I'm going to do this till the day I die. Hopefully.
Yeah.
You know, it's what I was meant to do. It's what I've wanted to do for the last 7 years or so.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to tell me not to do it.
No, and there's no plan B.
No.
You have a plan B that's already thinking plan A is not going to work out. Mm-hmm. And I get, you know, there is value in not putting all the eggs in a basket or counting the chickens before they hatch, but you have to be so confident in yourself. And you have to trust that I can do this and I can make this work. And ultimately, if you are going, well, let me put this egg in this basket, that tells me everything I need to know.
What was the first interview you ever did?
First interview I ever did was July of 2020, and it was Sam Alvey. So former UFC fighter, Smiling Sam, because he's the only guy that got back to me. I mean, again, at that point in time, I was nothing. I had no following. I had no affiliation with any media outlets. So the fact that he was like, yeah, I'll take 45 minutes of my time and chat with this kid, and I really enjoyed that. I mean, I was so pumped up after that. And it's so funny because, you know, Sam Alvey's had some ups and downs in the career, and people wouldn't say that he's the biggest name of all time. But to me that day, I was like, Sam Alvey's the GOAT.
Oh, at the time, yeah, for sure. Especially like starting out when you don't really have, like, that's the cool thing that I try to look back on sometimes when I have time to think about it. It's like where I was 4 or 5 years ago when I was interviewing, like, my brother.
Yeah.
You know, like, how did I get people... How did I convince people
to get on?
And then it just spiraled and spiraled. I mean, you keep working at the end of the day, but it's, how did I get that first guest to say, like, yeah, what the hell?
I think I will say this: when you have a show where like you're inviting someone on and you're like, hey, can I interview you? Everyone loves getting interviewed. I think everyone loves the chance to, like, you know, hey, sit down and talk shop. Like, I don't know. That's like, for me, if people ask me to interview me, I'm like, yeah, for sure. I don't give a fuck if they have a following or not, or 2 subscribers on YouTube.
Because we were both there, you know?
Exactly.
We're hypocrites if we don't say us.
Yeah, so got to be a man of the people.
Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to, but there was a reason someone did it for me 6 years ago.
Those are the days, man. Those are the days where that's when you need to. When you're like, fuck, I don't really want to, or and that extends to everything. Same thing with broadcasts. I mean, I've had some shows where, like, I am just dead tired or dealing with, like, vocal cord shit, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't know if I can do it. Those days that you got to show up. Because if you show up on those days, makes every other day easier. You know, and kind of puts a little bit proof in the pudding that you're meant to do it. Because like if you fold on those days, I don't know. It's like that saying, man, when the going gets tough, if you don't get tougher.
It's like on days when you're not motivated, that's when you need to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember being at that pizza parlor and then being like Ben, show them your voice, show them what you're capable of doing, play-by-play. And you're just like, Ben Dave's here. And they're like, see, he's got it. Way better than the other broadcasters we had. I wish we had footage.
I wish we had those other broadcasters
were before we showed up.
No, and it's funny because, like, you know, I feel weird as a play-by-play because I am constantly just replacing people. That is the nature of the business. You know, the new age comes and takes the old guard spots. You know, for Uriah Faber's show, the gig that I just had, Jim Coolio was the former play-by-play, and it's weird because I don't like stepping on people's toes. And again, replacing people has its own connotations, but that's what I'm grappling with right now. Because especially the further you move up, the narrower it gets. You know what I mean? And at the UFC level, there's two guys. It's Anik and Fitzgerald. And so one day, I mean, hopefully passing of the torch occurs. But there's a lot of play-by-plays that I don't want to replace or take their spots because I have so much love for them. You know? But
so are you just kind of enjoying the process of going through all of this and enjoying the journey and building that story as opposed to saying, I want to be in the UFC one day?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, because like the thing is, the UFC might not happen. There's a high likelihood, actually, that the UFC play-by-play role will be, I mean, locked away for 20 years. Or when I get to that point, someone else gets it. There's a lot of great play-by-plays at the top. So, you know, just because I have that goal doesn't mean that I'm married to it. I think if you're not appreciating the process and you're not enjoying the journey versus the beginning or the end, and it's like, why are you doing it? You know? Because like you said, it's the memories, man. It's the stories. It's the experiences, the nights that you get to share with people that I think make this journey worth it. Because, I don't know, if that's the goal, but it's the moon, man. Maybe I'll land among the stars and be content with that.
There could be another promotion that beats the UFC one
right.
day.
And that hasn't been announced yet. Yeah, exactly, yeah. So I think being open to everything, but for me, it's just that process of continue to climb. And thankfully, I've got very tangible indicators of my success. Am I getting shows or not? Am I getting better gigs or not? Like, for me, that's a good motivating thing, but I don't know. I'm loving the journey, though.
Are there any stories that have matched Rage in the Cage yet for you? Of just like raunchy, getting your fingers, like dirt underneath your fingernails, like, I can't believe I did that show once. But I have a story that comes with it.
I can give you two. One of them was about John Morgan, who is a very well-known mixed martial arts journalist and a commentator as well, and he's a fantastic guy. But I'll get to the JM one. The first one is a flex show that I did in New York a couple months ago, and again, it's regional MMA. They're trying to save money. I get that. So they had me in an Airbnb with all the fighters. Airbnb. Me with about 9 other dudes. And they're cutting weight. So they've got the showers on, there's no AC. I'm trying to prep notes, dude. I'm just sweating buckets. And they're the nicest guys ever, but fighters, especially on the regional scene, are, you know, they're interesting cats. They got some weird motherfuckers. And yeah, I remember I was talking to this one guy, his name's Travis Bullock, the Last Dragon, great motherfucker. He's eating these berries, and he's like, these are helping me shave off, you know, the carbohydrates, and it's absorbing the salts and the sodium, and that's how I'll lose weight quicker. And I was like, good luck, dude. So that was, I mean, sharing the Airbnb with no AC, that was a tough one. And then the John Morgan story. John Morgan, if you don't know him, is a tank. He is a monster, a behemoth of a man. And I always try and outdrink him, you know what I mean? Because he puts him down. And so my life's mission is to outdrink John Morgan. And every time I end up like floored, and he's like perfectly fine. Case in point, we were doing a show in Colombia, in Medellin, Colombia, or Bogota. And he was up until 7 a.m. drinking. I tapped out at 5. We did the show, we're back in the lobby with the fighters and the promoter and everybody, and dude, he's just putting him down, and I was like, I thought I was gonna beat him that night. I thought tonight's the night in Colombia, and John just stormed past me and I couldn't do it.
Really?
Yeah, he was up until 7 a.m. fucking drinking.
You'll never beat him, dude.
I'm never gonna beat that.
Some people are just built differently like that.
Exactly.
Too.
Yeah.
Where it's like they could do that all night long, and then 6 a.m. their alarm goes off. Like, all right, time to hit the gym.
Literally, yeah. And they're
I can't do
fun.
that.
I can't do it either, man. I can't do it.
It's your life's mission, huh?
That's all I want. Fuck the broadcasting. Fuck the competition or anything. Yeah. All I want in life is to beat John Morgan once at drinking. That's all I want.
I think you'd have a great opportunity if you wanted to like host. I mean, start obviously like interviewing people and having your own show and stuff like that. But like, is that ever in the back of your mind? Like being like a guy who just has like, I'm trying to compare like, in the baseball world, they have Ben Verlander doing like the Fox baseball show, right?
Yeah.
Would you want to do something like that in MMA, or is it play-by-play?
I mean, man, like the amount of times I get told that, where they're like, "Oh, you should have a show or have like a weekly thing." Yeah. The problem is, I don't know if I'd want to do it by myself. Like I'd want a co-host or, you know,
It'd be easier.
Yeah, but that's the problem is it's impossible to coordinate. It's so difficult to coordinate, and with my schedule, like I am not able to be consistent. And I think if I started something, I would need to be consistent with it. You know what I'm saying? And I just at this moment I can't do that. Maybe down the line, and I am interested because content is king, and that's a vehicle that I think could push the brand and everything else and platform to a different degree. But I just can't do it right now. You know, down the line for sure. But like I've tried, I've dabbled, and it's failed, hasn't worked out. So like I'm waiting for when it's right. But maybe down the line.
How did you get all of, not like straight up, like give me all of your secrets kind of way, but like were you like reaching out to people to get all these opportunities? Because like you're traveling a lot, getting all these opportunities. People are hearing about, oh, it's Ben Davis, young and up and coming kid, he's very good. You know, and then you get opportunities to work with big names that you probably didn't think you were going to get able to work with at such a young age.
Dude, I didn't, less than a year of doing this in person, I would not have fathomed being where I'm at. And the key to getting play-by-play gigs in mixed martial arts, again, is just networking. I hate to boil it down to that, but you know people in higher places that want you to succeed, then they will help position you. And it's all about, again, the branding as well. Like I've got a pretty okay following, and like that has enabled me to open the door for some conversations, and then also being, I think, talented at it. You know, and that is the other thing, kind of to circle back to our conversation about when people like are studying this and they're like, well, what is the secret sauce? Being able to do play-by-play and having a good voice is maybe 10 to 20% of the battle. I think that networking is a big portion of it, and being a likable guy. I don't know. I think we're likable dudes. But if somebody doesn't like you, they're not going to hire you, you know? So I think that's kind of if it were a secret to give, it's just knowing the right people and being in the right place at the right time.
What is your biggest piece of advice moving forward for a guy who you see potential in, that reaches out to you and is like, how do I break into the business?
If I see potential in someone, again, not to sound like a broken record, but don't stop. Keep going. You know, look at the guy who wrote Rent, which is a huge musical. There's a great Tick, Tick, Boom on Netflix starring Andrew Garfield. That I think is the perfect story of how to create something iconic and everlasting. Is his first musical that he spent 8 years writing, didn't do anything. Didn't get on Broadway. It kind of flopped. But he kept at it. And then he wrote Rent, and Rent is one of the most successful musicals of all time. Jonathan Larson, that's his name. So I think if you've got potential, if I were to impart some advice, just don't stop. Keep going.
What are you going to say to Gabe Silva? What's the promo you're cutting right now before your fight?
Gabe Silva, you're not living up to the last name. The Anderson Silva lineage on your shoulders is wearing quite heavy, and personally, I'm not impressed. September 23rd, you're thinking you're going to walk in there and knock me out in the first round. I'll see you in round 4, buddy.
What you gonna do when the Bane runs wild on you? This was episode 791 of the podcast, guys. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe on our YouTube channel @Jack O'Hara TV. Watch the fight. Watch the fight.